other news, stock markets across the world have witnessed a massive crash today as US President Donald Trump's sweeping reciprocal tariffs triggered a global sell-off, wiping out trillions in market capitalization and plunging Dalal Street into its worst trading day in nearly a year. Amidst the global bloodbath, China, Japan and Taiwan were amongst the biggest losers in Asia. Australia's benchmark index was down by nearly 4%, while US's Dow Jones saw a 2.2% decline. Amidst global fears of a recession, President Donald Trump has signaled no slowing down on his tariff war path. What does this truly mean for India? I have with me on the broadcast Dr. Sharat Kohli, senior economist, and Dr. Vinod Rawal, senior economist as well. Let me begin this conversation with Sharat Kohli. Dr. Kohli, we've been having this conversation for several days now, ever since the reciprocal tariffs came into effect on the 2nd of April. We are now standing today on the 7th of April and the downward spiral continues. Do you believe that Donald Trump is correct in saying that this is perhaps a market correction rather than an economic bloodbath?
Good evening, Devika. Good evening to Vinod and the Newsx viewers. Well, it is definitely not a market correction. This is a proper mayhem in the market. It reminds me of the 1987 Black Monday. You know, for a lot of people who've been connected with the stock markets, they must have known, it goes in the words of history, that what happened on the Black Monday in 1987. Incidentally, today is again a Monday. Well, President Trump, last night had a candlelight dinner. And there was $1 million ticket for if somebody wanted to join him for the dinner. He also had a game of golf last night. So I think he's not really impacted or affected. He's saying this is a correction. You're right. He said he's a correct. But this is definitely correction is when you are probably a few decimal points here and there, some profit booking comes and so on and so forth. This cannot be termed as a correction. This is a proper bloodbath, which is emanating. Now, where is it emanating from? It is emanating from disruption in supply chains and a consequent threat of global recession. It is first going to hit America, and it is said in the economic circles and stock market circles, Devika, we say if America sneezes, the world catches cold. So the stock markets around the world, they take cues from America because of the time difference. And it is also the world's largest financial and capital market, so it takes cues from there. We saw across Asia, right from India to Singapore to Korea to Japan, across the board selling, to Hong Kong, across the board selling. So this cannot be called as a correction. How can a correction be global? Correction is a very domestic factor. It happens to one particular stock market. This cannot be termed as a correction. And I'm very surprised because President Trump is facing internal protest also. There may be political reasons in 50 states. Hands-off protest against him and Mr. Elon Musk are now people are on the roads. They are not happy with his immigration policies. They are not happy with DOGE, the D-O-G-E. They are not happy now with the stock market and the supply chain disruption policy, the tariff policy. I'm not sure where he says that this is probably a market correction. This is a recipe, if you ask me. This is a recipe for recession. If he does not take back some of his decisions, it is going to really lead to recession. It will mean job losses. It would mean shutting down of some of these small businesses. It would mean people's salary being cut down, and this will go right across the world. Imagine, Devika, a country like Vietnam, where 46% tariffs have been levied. They are completely dependent. I was in Vietnam a couple of weeks ago. They are completely dependent on garment export, on the apparels, and on electronics. Now, 46% tariff, poor thing, they don't have any other way to go. Their economy survives on that. Imagine Bangladesh, which is on textiles. India's total exports are about $800 billion, half merchandise, half services. Yes, our certain degree of merchandise sector would be impacted. Some services, because we are heavily dependent on IT. America is the main customer for IT services. So if America spirals into recession, we might see loss of some jobs in the IT sector, which will be impacted. But broadly speaking, India is fairly immune to this. India is a consumption-driven economy. 60% of our economy comprises of consumption. But me and you, when we go and buy goods and services, it runs on that. We are a world in ourselves, 145 crore people. But I'm really worried about America. Then I'm worried about rest of the world. And last, I'm worried about India, where some rippling effect, some cascading effect would definitely be felt. We call it as Vasudev Kutumbakam. The whole world is a family now. So it's not possible that one portion is affected and the other is not impacted. So there will be, but I hope some sense prevails to Mr. Donald Trump that he will have to retract, although he's very adamant. He said, I'm not going to retract at all.
Yes,
But when the
precisely.
voices
That's
start
what,
coming,
Sharat Kohli, do you feel that somewhere now it could possibly boil down to egos rather than just making certain sensible decisions, because his administration and President Trump himself are adamant that this was the correct move to make, that this was the right step, and that this was needed. The world needed a bit of this shock to really come to terms with and to come to the realization that that America was being taken for a ride, which is what Donald Trump's reading is. Despite being the #1 economy in the world, Trump and his administration have constantly been speaking about how America and its tariffs and other policies have been taken for a ride by the rest of the world. So do you feel that somewhere, is there a fear amongst experts that this could possibly boil down simply to egos rather than proper decision making?
There has to be a method to madness as well. Well, his intentions may be good. What he wants to do, he wants to make America rich again, wealthy again. All that is fine. But can you set up factories overnight? Can you start factories from 5th of April or 9th of April? The D-Day which he fixed for, it cannot happen. The ideal way of doing this should have been, he should have set a 1 or 2 year deadline that, okay, from next year, so and so date, we will probably impose tariffs if you don't come and make investments in America, you don't provide jobs in America. That should have been the right way to do it. You cannot do it on a certain date, which is 5th of April or 9th of April or 2nd April you announce and say, okay, fine, 9th of April. This is just not the way. Yes, you're right. This is a game of egos. He was carrying something in his mind before. But I had given you the data of setting up a factory in America. It costs you more than 1 crore per acre as land. It costs you $7.25 per hour to $17.50 per hour for unskilled labor, $40 per cent for skilled labor. I fail to understand how can somebody go and set up a factory on that expensive cost of production. So I think Mr. Trump will have to eventually realize the reality has to sink into him, because the market Dow futures are traded 24 hours, by the way. The Dow futures are still low. They are still trading at minus 1200. I'm sure if the market sinks in America for another day or two, there's going to be mayhem on the streets of America, Devika. 60% of the citizens in America, we have 18.5 crore demat accounts in our country out of 145 crore population. In America, 60% of the people trade in stock markets. They have seen their net worth being eroded, their capital being eroded. It's trillions and trillions of dollars. I'm not sure how Mr. Trump can remain immune and still enjoy a candlelight dinner and probably go for a game of golf. I had to go for a game of golf today. I cancelled it because I was absolutely startled today on what is happening. So I'm sorry to say, but sense has to prevail in Mr. Trump's mind for things to get better from here, Devika.
Okay, Dr. Vinod Raval, what does the Indian investor do at this point in time? Do we just stay put? How does one really then not panic in a situation where people are simply losing lakhs and lakhs of money invested in the markets literally overnight? So what exactly is it that the Indian investor should do at this point in time? Dr. Vinod Raval.
The investor has to see on the screens. The long-term investor has to stay invested. That's the only option with him. If it is a interest-bearing money he is carrying, then he's in trouble. If you really see the other investors, if you see the Warren Buffett data, it has come in the morning, it's 26 lakhs crores he's having his cash in hand. So everybody was smelling it. This is nothing like that this has happened overnight. With all the policies, this was bound to happen. There was no option at all. As Sharad has rightly said, it's a recipe to reception. I'm catching his words. He has given a platter to the whole world. Whatever was written on the wall, and it was over delayed that this will happen after so many years of, now he has bring closer. The country is in trouble. If you really see the markets there, the prices of goods have gone double. I've talked to my own children there. The grocery item has doubled in last 3 days, whereas it has to happen after 10th of April, but it has already gone high. The stores are empty. The panic buying is happening there. If you really see a country of this stage, this is not only the stock market, it is the whole country. The consumption numbers are going down. Where from the products are being landed there with 34% of Chinese tariff and 27% of Indian tariff. And yesterday I was reading, there's a island near Canada. It was Saint Pierre and Macklin with 6,000 population, and they supply fish products to the United States, and 50% tariff has been loaded on them. They have to eat themselves. It is for them only. It is for their own public, and he is levying 50% tariff on it. I think the good sense has to prevail on Mr. Trump. For the investor, they have to stay calm. They have to keep invested. I will again say it's a buying time. If you has the money, you have to keep invested. Nobody knows the bottom. That's very true. But still, it has to be invested in tranches, so everybody gets its profit out of it. The market has to come back. If I talk about the 1987 Black Monday, even it has come up. If you really see the numbers, we have gone very high. If you really see the reasons behind it with Mr. Trump is, there is a debt with him. There is a maturities of $9 trillion, which has to be refinanced. For that reasons, he needs money. He has used this tariff as a revenue collection mode, but he has forgot that he is living on whole world, and it's not so easy. So your first question, that what the investor should do, I think the one-liner answer of I think the panel will agree with it, that stay invested. Don't make panic selling. Keep money with you. Stay invested for longer period. No other option with you. That's the only way. Keep investing through SIP notes. Buying it,
Okay.
so you get more stocks, more units. Stay invested.
Okay, Mr. Ved Jain, former VC of Assocham, also with us. Mr. Jain, I want to understand from your perspective, when something like this does happen, does that somewhere create some sort of an anxiety or a tension amongst investors and create some sort of a doubt in the mind of investors? And how does that really impact the market overall, as well as firms and companies that are relying heavily on stock investments?
See, whenever any tremor is there, there is bound to be some losses, some here or there, what has jerk to be felt. And the past experience clearly says that this is not for the first time this is happening. There have been different, maybe the reasons have been different. We had Lehman Brothers in 2008, and then we had something, COVID in 2020. So market has crashed like anything. I do appreciate people who are short-term investors and work out, they may be finding it difficult. And there may be a situation where people has borrowed money and then invested. They may also be in trouble. But I believe those who are invested their own funds and have a long-term vision, there is no reason to panic at this point of time. This is a tremor, this is a seismic activity which is happening, and over a period it has to stabilize. Even when earthquake is there, it takes time. There may be some casualty at that point of time, but over a period things do improve, and I am quite hopeful that there will be equilibrium achieved. And equilibrium when achieved can be different reasons. One, more wisdom prevails on the US administrations. They rethink over this, because this is not only for the benefit of the US, this is disadvantage US. When you increase tariff, the first sufferer will be your citizen, your peoples, who have to pay more for buying the product, and then there will be an inflation for that purpose. And second is that you may earn more money by tariff, but on the other hand, the consumption will go down, because the money is always limited. It is not an unlimited money. Rather than money which is buying more product today, the same money will get divided. A part of the money will go to the treasury, and the part of the money will go to buy the products. So ultimately, it is the consumption which will go down. And if the consumption goes down, obviously the demand will go down. And thirdly, now you are harping on that you will be able to export more. I believe the formula which has been applied for the purpose of working out this, what we call retaliatory tariff, is the ratio of the export versus import. And since exports are lower as compared to the import in US, and that percentage has been divided by 2 so as to work out this discounted retaliatory tariff. So now if that is so, what will happen? Now you want to say that the other country should allow more export to their country. Now take those countries who don't have the funds, resources, foreign exchange, how they can buy. And if those country can't buy, overall economy will slow down, global economy will slow down. And if that slowdown happens, then obviously US, the largest economy, will be the first to get hit it on this issue. And then, of course, the fourth is the retaliatory tariff. Your product will not be allowed to be sold in the other part of the world. And the fifth and the largest damage which this action has done is now I think the loss of confidence in US. US has been considered always a big state, a reliable partner, a reliable and matured economy, democracy, which looks into the overall global interest. And now what this action shows that US wants, I will look into my own economy, my own interest, and I don't know what happens in the globe. If that be so, there will be lack of confidence, and the thing which is, and the first, I think the immediate pitfall will be the lack of confidence in the US investment, and the US dollar is the considered to the world currency. That will also get affected. So people can get worried, the different countries can get worried by to keep the money in the dollar. So tomorrow something can happen or some announcement can come that no, we are not going to do something like dollar, we are not going to pay for something. That's a lack of confidence is going to happen. But coming your question is that the investors, I say no loss to the investor. It is a temporary phase. It has to come back. Its equilibrium has to be achieved, and just for the purpose of consolation, not for otherwise. If everybody money goes down, then you are at par. You have 100 rupees, I have 100 rupees, my rupees has become 80 and your rupees has become 80. So you are at par, you have not lost anything, because it is at the end of the day, it's a comparative analysis which happens. Because when the dollar prices increases, the same thing happens. I have $10, you have $10. Both have increased, so both value has gone up. And if it comes down both, it's across the globe, happening everywhere. So nothing to worry for the investors. Short term may be a loser, but not for long term at all.
Okay, Mitali Nikore also with us on the broadcast. Mitali, I want to understand from your assessment, the Indian government at this point in time has not spoken about reciprocal tariffs or any large moves that one is planning against the steps that have been taken by the US. For example, China was one of the first countries to say that, okay, if you're going to impose tariffs on us, we will of course impose the same tariffs on you as well. But India is really staying put and studying the situation. Your assessment, is that the correct way forward?
Absolutely, Devika. No doubt. I think the Indian approach is the perfect approach at this point in time, because India realizes that we are exposed on two very large and important sectors for our economy. The first one being IT and ITS services. 75% of our IT exports are to the US and to US companies. That is one of our biggest employers. Today, the big five IT companies employ more than the Indian Railways. It is the employer of first resort, I would say, for all our engineering graduates. So at this point in time, the IT industry and this health and stability of the IT industry is a number one priority for India at this point in time. The second reason why it makes sense for India to remain, very neutral in its stance and very studied in its stance is the pharmaceutical industry. Already the words and murmurings from the president are coming out to say that the pharma industry could be next in terms of having large tariffs that no one has seen before. So in order to, prepare for that scenario, but also have the back channels activated so that, we can minimize the tariffs on pharma industry is very critical, because again, more than 50% of our exports from the pharma industry are going to the US. So it's very important to protect our pharma industry where, again, there are a lot of jobs at stake. And the third reason why it makes sense again is because, Prime Minister Modi did a master stroke, which none of the other global leaders were able to do, was that he went to the US before the tariffs were announced and struck a basic agreement, a North Star, which set a goal of $500 billion of US India trade by 2030. If that is to happen, of course, India also has to increase its defense buying, for example, of US, defense goods, for example. That might be one very, interesting and one very beneficial, mutually beneficial way for India and the US to engage in a, trade dialogue. But at the same time, important for India to continue engaging with the US, because for us, technology and moving ahead in technology, in artificial intelligence, is the way for our economy to grow. And our linkage with US firms is very, very deep. So we have to continue working with them. We can't continue working only with China or, with groups led by China. So we are kind of tied to the US in that sense, and we have to continue working with them.
Okay, at the same time, Sharad, same question to you. I want to understand from your perspective as well. Do you believe that this is the correct approach to follow what the Indian government has said, that we will stay put where we are at the moment and we will continue to study the tariffs and their impacts, but we're not really going to start any major conversations with the United States of America or think about any reciprocal tariffs?
If you divide the world into three categories, there are three categories of countries, three reactions basically, kind of reactions. One is China type, who slapped back, they're retaliatory. It's a full-fledged trade war, tit for tat. You do it on us, we do it on you. That's one category. Second category is India category, where we believe in dialogue, we believe in discussion. We'll sit down with you item by item. Our two ministers, Mr. Piyush Goyal and Mr. S. Jaishankar, sat with the US Trade Representative. Brendan Lynch came here, discussions were held, so and so. And, we want item by item. We don't want you to put a blanket tariff on, although that has been done. But I'm sure there's a BTA, the bilateral trade agreement, and then we are heading towards FTA also. And there's a third category of countries, Devika, who are just not doing anything. Do whatever you want to, we are fine. They're just trying to behave neutral. In fact, I came to know, I don't know how much of this is true, probably your channel will have to verify this, that Vietnam offered that we are willing to make the tariff zero, but US has not answered to them. They haven't got a response from US. So right now, I think President Trump is in a mode where I have announced 50 countries have approached me. He says 50 countries have approached me for talks. So when are those talks going to happen? How long are you going to do those talks? I think this needs an emergency fix. You need to discuss immediately and finalize it, because the markets will keep reacting. The supply chain is going to get disrupted. As Vinod said, his children are there in America. They are saying groceries are running empty because people will do panic buying and they'll start storing. So I think this will lead to an absolute chaos. There is an emergency, but India's approach is perfect. This is the only way. There are only two ways. Either Mr. Trump retracts and he takes back some of his decisions, or by dialogue, we try and resolve this matter, Devika. There is no other way for sure going forward.
Okay, I want to ask, we have with us still Mr. Ved Jain with us on the broadcast. Mr. Ved Jain, I want to understand from your perspective, is there then something that the government can do at this point in time? Is there, as Sharad said, there has to be some assurance or some fix that has to be brought in, because the markets will continue to react, and then of course investors will continue to react to the market reaction itself?
I believe, Devika, that will be too premature at this point of time. Government can't give any assurance. There is no indication from the US. I believe backdoor discussions are going on, but you cannot make those discussions public. You don't know how the situation will develop and what will be the ultimate result will come out. And making any promise to the investors or making any declaration at that point of time from the perspective of investors may not be advisable. But yes, from the perspective of industry, various industries, yes, the government need to come out with some sort of clarification or some sort of a press release, as so many of the other countries have come out. But sometime it becomes difficult for the government, because some backdoor discussions are going on. So they don't want to discuss, and they don't want to say anything about the negotiation which are going on. But look at from two perspectives. One, there is an immediate knee jerk and there is a loss somewhere coming out, that some of the product which we are exporting, the tariff has gone up to 26%. But at the same time, just look from a positive side. Now, many of the other countries like China have been exporting some products to the US, and many other countries will be exporting, where the tariff is proposed to be much higher than compared to 26%. Now, this gives a position in India an advantage of arbitrage, and substituting as a new supplier to the US with a custom duty or a tariff at 26% as against 54% from the China. and some of the other countries. So this gives an opportunity also. And now look at textile. Bangladesh, I believe, has been put in 36%. And now in India, with 26%. So textile industry can definitely make out a move out of it, unless the Bangladesh comes out with some subsidy to the textile industry, which it will be difficult looking at the present economic condition of the Bangladesh at this point of time. So now Vietnam, of course, has said yes, it is going to reduce zero duty for all products coming from US, but how it is going to handle it, that will be a big challenge. Because in case it happens like this, then most of the US product will land in Vietnam and then will get distributed across the globe. So that can again pose a big challenge to the Vietnam economy. It is not so easy to say yes, the tariff will be zero for all products which are coming to your country from the US. Your home industry is going to suffer. Your others' job opportunity may get lost, because then what Donald Trump wants, that the job to be shifted to USA, that will become a reality, which is very difficult. And now that's why I say to expect from the government at this point of time may be a little too premature. But yes, definitely something should be, some assurance need to come, not from the investor perspective, but from the different industries which are going to have immediate impact.
Right, absolutely. That's all the time that we have. I thank all of our guests for joining us on the broadcast to take this conversation forward.